Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is Morning Somewhere for November 25th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. I played her the drop because she's having tech problems today. The worst kind of tech problems. Say hi to Ashley Burns, everybody.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I think I'm on my way to a new laptop. I've had this one for several years. It has stood me in good stead, but I'm starting to have the sort of like frustrating boot issues that you sort of get when a laptop is like, I'm done with you now.
It's kind of like when you drove a crappy car. Like cars today seem to last forever, but when we got cars in like the early 90s, everything on them was busted by the time they got down to teenagers. And it's like, okay, I had to keep the driver's side door open slightly and put my foot on the brake and the accelerator in order to turn the car on.
Or you get the fun things like just never come to a complete stop.
Exactly. I had to think my car, my Datsun, before they became Nissan, Datsun 200SX. It had a thing at one point where if I turned the wheel like 30 degrees past to the right, the horn would honk.
I had my first car was it was a 1982 Dodge 400. Remember the old K cars, like those solid bricky cars? Mine was gold, and it had that like brown like vinyl leather on the top of it. It was like proper. It had velour bench seats. It was a repo, and we got it for like $250. And we ended up selling it, I think, when a blinker went out, because it would have required taking the entire steering column off to fix it.
Wow. to access the blinker light, the bulb to replace it?
Yeah.
My God.
I want to say it never had even like a working tape deck or anything, so I had a boom box next to me on my velour bench seat driving to school, and that was my life.
So that's a funny thing too, because now it's like, is that problem even lost to time? Because just the other day, we have this mirror in the house. It's in one of the bathrooms, and there's a little light on the wall on either side of the mirror, and it just keeps burning out. They're these halogen lights, and they would burn out like every couple months, and we'd say, do we have any more of these, what are they, G8 bulbs or whatever? I'd have to hunt them up or buy them, and I go, what am I doing? I'm just going to go look. They must have an LED version of these light bulbs. Sure enough, they do. I put them in. You never know with LEDs if they're going to work or if they're going to start blinking because it's the wrong voltage.
Right, because it seems like some fixtures just aren't set up to take LEDs as a substitute for halogen bulbs, and something about the wattage they just don't like each other, and so it blinks a little bit.
I clicked the light switch. They came on. They were perfectly fine. They were the right temperature, and I immediately thought, that problem is done for about 15 years.
It is nice how long those ones last.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, even like, remember like all the jokes about how many people does it take to change a light bulb or whatever? You know, it's like, that's going to get lost to time. It's like, what do you mean change a light bulb?
I'm sorry, you do what now?
Yeah. Don't you call an electrician to do that? Like, there's going to be people who are like, when a light bulb goes out, they're going to be like, this has never happened before. What do I do?
This is a generational problem now.
Generational problem too. We're talking about old cars, like the beaters we used to get for our first cars when we first learned to drive. Here's a problem that everyone over, I'm going to say like 30, I'll say 35. Everyone over 35 is going to identify with, and nobody under 35 is going to identify with. Do you remember there was like a period of time with cars where when you're in the car, in the cockpit, there is a headliner that goes up? There was a period of time where they just must have used the quickest degrading glue in the world, because everyone had a car where the headliner was drooping down.
Saggy.
Like blinding you in the car. Like it would be on your head, drooped onto your head. And like all my different friends had like thumbtacks to hold theirs up or whatever. They fixed whatever that was, but there was an era of cars where that was a massive problem.
There was. When we got that lovely gold vehicle of mine, we had to redo the headlining in it. And I begged my dad, because I was a very cool 16-year-old, I begged my dad to please get cloud fabric so I could pretend it was a convertible. And he said...
Like you're in a Vegas casino.
It would have been the Caesar's Palace Mall of cars, okay? And he absolutely refused. So he just got the gold that matched the rest of the car. Dad, if you're listening, I still think about that on a regular basis, and I haven't forgiven you for it yet. It could have been the coolest convertible of all time.
If I ever make a movie that's set in the 80s, I'm going to make sure that a group of kids pulls up in a car where the headliner is just resting on all their heads. And older, like Gen X people go like, that's totally authentic. This movie's accurate.
Right, like when you say like, was Stranger Things, was that how kids were in the 80s? And everyone goes, oh yeah, except everyone would have been smoking and calling each other a bunch of slurs.
Yeah, every one of the kids in Stranger Things would be smoking cigarettes. It's true. It's so true. It makes it sound like we're like Victorian coal miner kids or something. But we did. We all smoked like when we were 13 years old. It's fucking insane. Insane. And we were watching like R-rated gore body horror movies and stuff like that.
Your parents are taking you to Alien.
But this problem you've got is like with this laptop.
How long have you been watching me push the power button over and over, just hoping that this thing will boot?
It is the worst kind of tech problem that you can have because it's intermittent. It works sometimes and it doesn't work other times, and it'll not work for about 30 minutes, and then it'll work, but nothing changed.
Right. It's gonna work for weeks, and then for no reason that I can tell whatsoever, it'll just do this thing again. It could take me up to an hour of pushing this button, and then it's going to work again for weeks.
I'm watching you do everything. She's pushing the power button while slamming on the space bar, while clicking the mouse buttons.
I've put it on my lap to like heat it up in case it's a heat issue. Maybe it's just chilly.
It's weird.
I get these superstitions about like what it is that's going to fix it. And then something will happen that's unrelated to anything I've done. It'll just work fine.
Or she'll power it off and then power it back on really quickly so it doesn't lose all of its power and it gets enough
Like if
to
I can
boot
just
up.
just keep the power going, right? Just keep the juice flowing.
It is. It's really weird when digital products have what seems to be very analog issues. It's frustrating. It seems like I have it with Wi-Fi all the time. It's like, why isn't this thing connecting? What's wrong with it?
Right. And it's like you don't have an answer, right? It's not going to explain this thing to you. It's not telling me why it's not starting. It can't give me an error. It's just, this is my life.
So, segueing while we're talking about technology, there's been a big technology milestone that has been reached, Ashley, in the mobile gaming
singularity?
world. No, not the singularity. This is some steps below the singularity. This is Minecraft has lost its crown at the top of seemingly every single ranking of mobile games. And it has now been bested by a little game known as Balatro.
Oh, you were part of that, Bernie.
I was part of that.
How do you feel to be part of its success story?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about it. I didn't put a perspective of it being all about me.
You're going to charge him a commission?
I wish. So I've learned about this game. It's been out for a while. Love this game. It's a lot of fun. Personally, I don't know if it's got the long-term playability that I think a mobile game would need in order to be game of the year, but it is, for me, just an amazing game. It's essentially like an expression of mathematics as a video game. It's great, right? It's all probabilities and multipliers and things like that. And stacking.
Just number go biggest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
how can I reorder these or do these things to make number go big?
Right. Like it's like if you're a math person, it's even like did it come on?
It's booting. This screen's staying a little longer
so
this time.
happy
I
for
think we're there.
So I'm just trying to say it again. Balatro. That's how you say it, right?
I think it's Balatro.
Oh,
I watched.
What was I saying before?
You initially called it Balatro. That was when you just.
You corrected me.
When you originally you read the word and you said it out loud. You said it as Balatro. I watched a trailer for it, and in the trailer they called it Balatro, and so I assume that that's the official.
What did I just say? Now I'm really confused. Wasn't I saying Balatro just now?
You were, but then you went back to Balatro.
Oh, I see. You mean within the course of this podcast?
Yes, correct.
All right. Well, this fucking game. It's number one. It's one developer.
So it knocked what Minecraft off the top spot in the App Store. And that's a really big deal. I think it's one or two other things I think have maybe like pinged up there momentarily and then dropped away. But it is very rare for anything to replace Minecraft, even on its best day.
Somebody in this room, we won't point fingers. Somebody let our 5-year-old play Minecraft on an iPad. I don't know why the decision was made for the household to crack that particular shell. But I was helping Finn do something because he gets a certain amount of time that he can play Minecraft every day. And really like 30 minutes of Minecraft is not a lot of time.
Well, and also I'm using it as it's a bit of a stick, or I shouldn't say stick. It's the carrot.
She beats him with an iPad.
It's the carrot. So he's learning to read and he's doing a great job. And so he has this little series of little books that have simple words in them. And he's He's reading more and more complex words. And so he has to read a book and then he gets 15 minutes of Minecraft. And it's nice because he can play on creative mode, so he doesn't have to worry about like getting frustrated or getting blown up by creepers or anything. He's just, right now, it's basically digital Lego for him, right? He just sits down and he just builds houses. And sometimes he'll build a TNT tower to the clouds and then blow it up.
That's because who doesn't do that?
He's 5, of course he does. And so I think it's harmless. It's as far as like games that he could be playing, I don't worry about that one in creative mode at all.
I'm a super purist though because I don't like it. I don't like it on.
You don't like creative mode?
No, I don't like it on mobile. I don't like it on my iPad.
See.
It feels weird and it's just like. I'll be honest with you. I never played ever Minecraft on the Xbox. Was it the 360 that it came out on? I never played it on Xbox. I've only ever played it on PC. But it's a huge milestone because that game. I talked to people here in Scotland about it. That their kids played as well. And I'm like, JD played this when he was 8 years old. For 15 years, kids have been playing this game nonstop.
It's got some juggernaut. Really very serious staying power on it. So to knock it out of the top spot, even for a moment, is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations to Balacho. Congratulations to Bernie for being part of Balacho's success story.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I have so many people I'd like to thank as well. But, I'd like to share this with the entire team. But it's one person developing that game, so good for them.
Look, you get those little I love the stories of like one person who had a vision and made it happen, and then went on. They had some brainworm, some like flash of insight and inspiration, and it went on to become a huge success. Wordle was a really similar thing, right? That was someone who I think they made a word game like for their partner or for a friend, and then it went on to become like an absolute behemoth, right? And it's at its core is very simple, but can be very, very complex. Like it can be, it can be tricky. You have to think about it. It makes you work, but you enjoy it the whole time, and that's great.
It's funny you say that because Local Thunk, the developer who developed Balatachro, supposedly they were creating the game for their friends, and it was one of a few games that they made just for their friends, and explodes and now becomes one of the hottest sellers ever,
and a contender for Game of the Year even.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah, there was a pre-release where they released it about a year before it came out, or at least in 2023 they released it. Where some people could test it and take a look at it. But then when they did the drop earlier this year, they added a bunch of things like at the drop. Like they added a bunch more jokers. You have refused to play the game, so you don't understand that. But it's like all the different types of jokers that you use in order to modify your runs. They dropped a ton of them at that time, which I don't know how they balance all that stuff. I don't think, one of the things that's fun about it, I don't think they care. I wasn't playing it earlier, but apparently it went through a difficulty balance patch, which made it easier to win. That's totally fine. You can always raise the difficulty if you want to, but one of the things I like about this game is it's a roguelike game where you can actually win your runs. Like FTL, I'm not kidding. FTL is Faster Than Light. It's a great roguelike game. I think I probably have like 3 wins across like 120 runs in that game. It's just not enough.
A lot of those games, I feel like winning is optional, right? Like there's some games where if you don't play to the end, it's like you haven't finished the game, right? But a roguelite or a roguelike, I feel like the end is a nice bonus, but it's not the point. The point is the journey.
I guess so, but it is nice when you have, because you basically have like 8 rounds where you can make it through to the 8th round, then you win. It's good. It's just like, if I'm playing a mobile game, just let me have fun. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not trying out for the Olympics here.
Well, and it's not like it's a game that you're playing against other people. Right. So what does it matter?
Just let us win.
Just
for God's sake.
Let me have this nice thing.
And then the nice thing is too about the game is like when you do lose, you feel like it is your fault. But enough about that. Congratulations to the team at Balafaro. Great job making your game and making a shitload of money of it. Join our Patreon, will you? Do you want to talk to people about the Patreon? We had a video episode go up this weekend.
Yeah. So we have done our first video episode for our
Mush
Patreon.
was the star.
He certainly was. He was a very good boy. I was honestly not expecting him to stay in place. So he jumped up on the table as we were sitting down to record. We got him a nice little pillow, and he just princed out the entire time. He relaxed. He did block the view of the fire a little bit. So, instead of getting a nice view of fire, you get a view of a sleepy cat. But I think everyone sort of comes out on top in that scenario.
And then some quick things, just a quick roundup from last week, some things that happened. Matt Gaetz stepped down. He is not going to be the Attorney General. There's already been somebody new appointed. And then Jussie Smollett's conviction was overturned by an Illinois court.
Well, now, and that was an interesting one because from what I understand, they're not saying that he's not guilty. What they're saying is that justice was not carried out correctly in that case because he had come to an agreement with prosecutors to a deal that was going to avoid jail time, and then they said, wait, no, we're going back on that, and we're going full trial, and we're steaming ahead on this after they'd already come to an agreement. So
this is from the New York Times. I can read this to you if you want to. From the Times of New York, the Illinois Supreme Court on Thursday overturned the actor Jussie Smollett's conviction on charges that he lied to police about being the victim of a racist and homophobic attack in 2019. The court ruled that Mr. Smollett had been unjustly prosecuted after he had already reached a deal to resolve the case without jail time.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the way the prosecution was handled, basically it sounds like the conviction was thrown out. It wasn't technically overturned, but not on the basis of the facts, more so on the way the procedures worked with the prosecution.
Almost like, do you remember the movie Double Jeopardy?
Is that the one with
that was the Ashley Judd movie, yeah, where basically her husband frames her for his murder. And so she goes to jail for it, and then she gets out of jail, and she goes off to murder him because she can't be tried twice.
There was somebody.
Everyone's like, that's really not how that works.
Somebody tried that with execution, where they tried to execute somebody and it didn't work. The person lived, and their lawyers said, listen, he went through his execution. That's his sentence.
Right, like you can't execute him twice for this thing.
It's an interesting take, right?
It is, yes.
He was only convicted and sentenced to one execution. He just happened to make it through to the other side.
Can you imagine people start being like, I know you've been sentenced to double execution, just in case.
Double execution. You're going to serve 18 consecutive executions. While we're talking about court stuff, let's go to something a little bit more lighthearted. Maybe this isn't lighthearted. I don't know. It's more lighthearted, at least. Netflix has officially issued a subpoena to Discord. They are asking for Discord to reveal the identity of a person who is the perpetrator of what they're calling the worst leak in history.
Oh.
And this is a user who, what are you doing over there? You're like clicking and pushing and everything.
I'm trying to pull up our sponsors.
Oh, what are you doing though? What's happening?
Now my keyboard's not working.
The whole time we've been doing this, she's been like grabbing her screen and pushing and pulling.
I was going okay for a while, and then my screen wanted to detach, so I detached it and put it back on, and now the keyboard doesn't think it's a keyboard.
All right, so I'll read this to you really quick. This is from Gizmodo. Back in August, Netflix suffered from a massive leak that saw full episodes of shows like Arcane, Terminator Zero, leak online ahead of their official release. At the time, Netflix... I think
I remember when this happened, yeah.
Yeah, and at the time, Netflix released an official statement saying it was actively taking action against the perpetrator of the leaks, and now the streamer has set its sights on Discord to unveil the perpetrator behind the leaks. A new report from Polygon reveals that the Northern District of California Court has issued a subpoena to Discord, demanding the social platform disclose information that could reveal the identity of a user implicated in the leak. Ooh. That's really interesting because I think a lot of us wonder when we're using these social media platforms, how much protection do we have as an anonymous person? And I guess
not all that much.
Right. It doesn't extend to actual criminal acts.
Right. Especially like a company like Discord, if you just walk up to them and be like, hey, I want your user information, they're going to tell you to like go kick rocks, right? But
let me walk back what I just said. Is it a criminal act? Or is this a civil complaint?
I think this is civil, right? What's the criminality there? The criminality would probably stem from like hacking into systems or things like that. I don't think releasing information that they don't want you to release is a criminal act. I think it's civil.
This is from Netflix's statement. One of our post-production partners has been compromised, and footage from several of our titles has unfortunately leaked online. So if there was some kind of like attack or hack or something like that, that could potentially be a criminal charge, but it wouldn't be up to Netflix to issue a criminal charge.
Right. They don't get to do that,
They
right?
don't get to do that.
But what they can do is go after someone civilly, which is what people will do a lot when there are not necessarily criminal charges. Or you can go against someone civilly, even if there are criminal charges, you can go against them personally as well. So in this case, it seems like as a business, they are trying to hunt down and civilly prosecute this leaker.
That's interesting. That's
Right.
interesting.
Discord, I mean, there have been a lot of leaks that have happened on Discord. It's where a lot of the like the War Thunder stuff will happen, where someone will post a classified manual that an airplane has thicker or thinner armor than War Thunder says that it has, and so it's not quite accurate. And it's like the weirdest reasons to leak classified information of all time. But it's been done before, and also a lot of those leakers have been caught. Very possibly what they do is they go and they subpoena Discord and say, we need this user information. And if you just walked up, they'd say no. When you hand them a subpoena, they say, yeah, sure, here you go.
Like I'm betting that the National Guardsman Teixeira, who was sharing that stuff, I bet he didn't put his real name in the actual forum post that he was sharing that classified information to the War Thunder group, right?
And yes, no.
So there must have been some process there as well where they found out who he was. In that particular case, it's a security issue with the national government. They probably didn't have to subpoena the North California District Court. They probably just reached through the internet and started to strangle the guy. It's probably the way that worked. He was probably using a computer on the base. But it is interesting. I'm curious how this case is going to turn out, because Discord is a business. They have a subpoena. They don't want to be known as a place where they're giving up their users' private information in order to be, civilly sued. They don't want to be known for that, but they don't really have a choice either. So I'm curious what Discord will do here.
Right. And, a company also doesn't necessarily want to be involved. They don't want to
help Netflix, right? Why would they want to help Netflix?
They don't want to help them, but they also don't want any part of this. Like, they're like, look, this is on you guys. You guys figure it out.
And I mean, you think of Discord as like, oh, Netflix is a huge company. Discord's a tiny company. The last valuation that I read for Discord was about $30 billion.
What?
For fucking chat, Ashley. It's another chat client. I get it. People who use Discord love Discord. It's like, to me, it's like, it reminds me of like the Dewey Decimal System when I go. It's like, I just want to talk about something. Well, why do I have to look at all these different like rooms and chats and voice channels and video channels and everything? I just want to talk about Doctor Who or whatever,
you want to talk about Doctor Who?
Why do you got to make it so complicated?
Back right on up, buddy.
But that's going to do it for us today. Can I put a request out there in the world for this coming Thursday's episode? We're going to be having a food episode. We're going to be talking all about food. So we want to hear from you in the comments on Patreon or on Spotify. We would love to hear what your favorite Thanksgiving Day foods are. It's going to be really annoying to the rest of the people all over the world that don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but that's just the way it works.
Just look at it as a day that we talk about food, and it's going to be so much fun.
You're going to hear about horrible things that make no sense to you, like pumpkin pie.
Or green jello with carrots in it.
It sounds totally normal when you grew up with it, but when you hear about it, you're like, you eat pies made out of pumpkins?
And that's like for fun.
Like a squash pie?
Absolutely. All right, and I'd also like to say a big thank you to Marco Ramirez and Ryan Stewart for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morningsomewhere. Thank you both. You're my pumpkin pie.
We appreciate your support so much, but you all should appreciate how hard Ashley worked.
Worked so hard that entire time.
I'm pretty sure her Apple Watch marked a workout. She was working so hard with that laptop trying to get. All right, baby, we will get you a new laptop so you don't have to go through that anymore. All right, well, that does it for us today, November 25th, 2024. We're going to be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.